So, if you are listening to this podcast on the week that it drops, you're going to be listening on my birthday week. I'm recording it a week before, but we are sharing it the week of my birthday. And because of that, I thought it would be a good opportunity to share with you about what I do each and every year on my birthday, how I reflect, what I reflect on, and what I do as a yearly ritual to mark the transition from the old year and into the new one. And the reason why I thought it would be of value to share it here with the coaching revolution community is because, as coaches and therapists and transformational practitioners, it's part of our jobs to help our clients mark transitions. Sometimes those transitions are going to be birthdays, anniversaries, or marriages, divorces, graduations. Sometimes those transitions are going to be about starting new ventures or ending ventures, starting habits, ending habits. In other words, part of transformation and supporting our clients in transformation and supporting ourselves in transformation is marking beginnings and endings and changes of status. When we do this, it creates a ton of awareness. And the kind of awareness that is created when we mark beginnings and endings and changes of status, when we mark transitions, that awareness helps us celebrate our progress and our evolution, which we all need to do more of. That kind of awareness helps us to honor what's falling away and what no longer is. That kind of awareness helps us to assess and then understand our strengths and our weaknesses, our gaps. And that kind of awareness also helps us better vision a future and future projects that are aligned for us. And of course, it helps us with so much more. In other words, marking transitions, doing ritual around transitions, creating awareness around transitions helps us so much with our coaching and with supporting our clients to evolve into who they are ready to evolve into and create and achieve what they're ready to create and achieve. And because of all of that, I am really excited to share with you this birthday ritual that I have been moving myself through for the past 25 years, each and every year for the past 25 years. You'll get insight for how to better support your clients and also for how to better support yourself. And this particular birthday for me is a big one and a special one because I am turning 50 years old. And because this one feels like such a milestone, I've already been doing some of the internal and psychic preparation work for this biggie for turning 50 over this last month. And I've been reflecting a lot on turning 50, where I'm at, where I've been, where I'm going. And so, for those of you that want to hang around and listen to the podcast for a few extra minutes, I'll be sharing at the end of the episode, or I guess the second part of the episode, about some of my observations about turning 50, about this stage of life, and where I'm landing in all of it. So I'm going to be sharing a lot on this episode. Before we jump into all of this, I wanted to make sure you knew that the Art of Client Transformation, which is a 3-day virtual training that will basically break open your heart, mind, and soul and help you understand your work as a coach, leader, or therapist in ways that will change you and your work forever. This is happening in September. And I offer the Art of Client Transformation only once a year. And it is the one opportunity to get 3 full online days with me at a pay what you wish investment rate. These 3 days of the Art of Client Transformation are filled with so many coaching and transformational techniques, the kinds that yield massive breakthroughs. It's filled with more content about the human behavior that you need to know to help co-create change than most year-long trainings contain. And the 3 days also have so much for you by way of learning about more working deeply and somatically with clients. There are so many tips also inside of these 3 days, tips and tricks for marketing more authentically and boldly. The value in the 3 days of the Art of Client Transformation is unbelievable. And it will level up who you are as a practitioner, whether you're just beginning or whether you have decades under your belt of experience. The pay what you wish option for the Art of Client Transformation is available only for another week. So definitely check it out as soon as you can, and I'll drop a link for it in the show notes. Okay, so on to my yearly birthday ritual. I mentioned earlier that I've been doing this ritual for the last 25 years. Without fail, I haven't missed a single year. And even before the last 25 years, I've been doing a more rudimentary version of this ritual. And it's one that is not only so important to me, but there's something about it that builds year to year to year. There's something about the power of the repetition of it each year. So it's powerful in and of itself on its own. And then there's something about the repetition of it. So, first, let me take a step back actually and share with you generally what I usually do on my period, like on the whole day of my period. I am a creature of habit, being the ritualist that I am. And basically, my birthday looks pretty much exactly the same each and every year. And I love it that way. I love kind of what I do, step by step by step. So, first of all, as a rule, I never ever work on my birthday. Never. I won't do it. Even when I worked a 9 to 5 job, I took the day off on my birthday. Of course, now it's much easier that I own my own business, but to me, my birthday is like a major holiday, and it absolutely needs to be a day of Joanna. Even though, of course, I love my work, my birthday is work free. And so this is generally what it looks like. I usually wake up in the morning, don't set an alarm, let myself sleep as late as I want to so I can be really well rested for my big day. And I'll start the day by getting my body moving. I'll go for a nice walk or do some yoga, and then I get showered. And, usually on most days, I don't really get dressed up. I'm kind of like a jeans or exercise outfit kind of person. But on my birthday, I will actually go into my closet and intentionally pick something nice and even wear a little bit jewelry, which is rare for me, but I'll adorn myself and I like to feel like I look really nice on my birthday. And then I'll start answering some of my texts and phone calls that I get from friends and family members who have, already gotten in touch to wish me a happy birthday because I love my friends and I love that kind of connection. And it means so much that they're celebrating my birthday with me and thinking of me. From there, on my birthday, I will hang out with a dear friend of mine in town. So this part I've only been doing the last decade. But I have a dear friend in town named Mercy who has the same birthday as me. And she's kind of one of my soul sisters. And we make sure to hang out on August 28th every single year. And it's just a wonderful part of my day. From there, I will go to a local coffee shop, and privately owned, small mom and pop coffee shop place, and I will treat myself to an iced coffee. And that is where and when I do part one of my birthday ritual. It's the reflections part of the ritual, and I'll share that with you in a few minutes. After I do that and I get my iced coffee and I do my birthday reflections in a very particular way at the coffee shop, I head on home and I do part two of my ritual at home. It's a more private thing that I can't really do in public. I'll share with you all about that as well in a few minutes. That usually brings me to, the late afternoon. The kids are usually getting home from school, and John is getting home from work. And I usually like to just have a real low key evening on my birthday with John and the kids, spend some time outside, go out to a low key dinner, and just really enjoy my family. I should mention that my wedding anniversary is the day before my birthday. So I got married August 27th, the day before my birthday. I will tell you it was not intentional. And word for the wise, don't get married the day before your birthday because sometimes your birthday can get a little swallowed up if you've got those two things back to back. Anyway, the day before my birthday, on my wedding anniversary, John and I usually go out to a little bit of a fancier dinner to celebrate. And so, even more so, that's why I like my birthday to kind of be low key and nothing too fancy. All right, so that's the day. That's kind of a snapshot of the day. Let's get into the ritual part. So, first part of the yearly ritual, I told you at the coffee shop, I do journaling and reflections on the year. Now, for those of you that listened to my New Year's podcast, I shared with you back in January my New Year's journaling and reflection. And if you haven't listened to that episode, I highly recommend doing it. I take you step by step by what I do for my business by way of reflection at the beginning of every single year. And I'm mentioning it now because my birthday reflections have some similarities to that. But whereas the beginning of the year reflections, I tend to focus more on business and business plans and business assessments. My birthday reflections, I tend to focus more on the personal with a little bit of business sprinkled in because, of course, my work is just a big part of who I am and each year. So I'll start my birthday reflections by meditating on, thinking on, and journaling on celebrations and gratitudes from the year. So I'll really take my time. I don't rush through this, and I will make a long list of everything that has happened in the last year, that has occurred, that is something that I want to celebrate, that is something that feels really good, or that is something that I have a lot of gratitude for. I start off with celebrations and gratitudes to start off with assessing the strengths and not just assessing strengths, but being able to take in all the goodness from the year, being able to see how lucky I am, being able to really take in the pleasure of everything that I have and all that's happened that is good and worthwhile. And of course, I'm doing this as things happen throughout the year, but there's something really powerful about taking the time at the end of a year and really honoring and acknowledging what's been amazing. And of course, honoring and acknowledging celebrations is 110% related to coaching skills. We, as coaches, as transformational practitioners, we need to have the skills to be able to support our clients to celebrate what is happening in their lives, to celebrate their resources and to celebrate their brilliances, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, on the outset, this can sound a little trite, like cheerleading, right? Like, oh, there's not much skill that goes into celebrating. And, traditionally, I think that's how celebrating is taught in a lot of training programs. But what I want you to know is that there is so much skill and technique that goes into supporting our clients to not only celebrate what happens, but to what I call build the celebration muscle inside of themselves. And that's because it's not always so easy to celebrate. Sometimes our clients won't want to. They won't feel like they're good enough or what's happened is good enough to celebrate. Maybe they have trouble seeing the positive. Maybe they're scared of the evil eye, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe they have past experiences of parents kind of blowing sunshine up their tushies when it wasn't really something to celebrate. It wasn't authentic. So, in Sacred Depths, we spend a whole module on learning celebration skills and techniques and the human behavior behind celebrating and why it's so hard to celebrate sometimes, and then exactly how to support different clients to be able to do this because it is such a vital skill. And also, it is really hard to support our clients to create what they want next in their lives if they don't know how to celebrate and not just give it lip service, but really embody it. It's really difficult also to support a client to foster deeper self-love and self-worth if they're not able to deeply celebrate and embody it. Anyway, I went off on a little tangent there. On my birthday, this is the first thing I do is I make a list of celebrations, and there is no celebration that is too big or too small for my list. And I also list out inner things as well as outer things. So not just things that happened, but inner pieces, right? Ways that I have evolved or grown, or things inside of me that I'm proud of. And I don't only make a list and just let it be words on the paper. After I make the list, I slowly and with intention read it over. I take it in. I take each celebration and gratitude in. So I haven't yet done my reflections for this coming birthday, but I can give you examples, even just off the top of my head, on things that I know, a couple things that I know for sure are going to end up on that list. So I always on my celebrations list, include vacations because I think vacations are big celebrations. It's a big deal to go away. It's such an incredible experience. I love vacation. And this last year, we were able to, John and I went to Ireland. We were able to take a couple of weekend trips. We were able to take our yearly trip to the beach with the kids. And so I know all of that is going to go on my list, and I'm going to take some extra time to just really be in gratitude for being able to have had those experiences. We got the dog this year. We got Willa. I didn't know how much I needed her until we got her. She's been just such a love in our lives already. And so I know for sure she's going to go on the list. And, you know, another thing that is going to go on that list is that I have thrived and my business has thrived, and I've found a way to make it through, even though it's been a really hard year for me personally. And I think that's a really big celebration that I'm here. It's been so hard, but I'm here. I did it. I've thrived. And I'll just give one more example. Another thing that I know is going to go on the list of celebrations for this year is that I finally, at almost age 50, started using moisturizer and sunscreen. Um, Back in December, I went on a girls' weekend with some of my best girlfriends from high school. And at some point in the weekend, we each, we like to give each other a lot of advice. We rib each other. We're such old friends. We rib each other. We give each other a lot of advice. And we kind of each together, we each came up with one thing that each of us had to start doing. And my girlfriends were horrified that I don't use moisturizer daily and sunscreen daily. It's been on my list for a lot of years, but somehow they gave me that kick in the tush. I've started doing it. I feel very proud about it. Okay, so first part of reflections, celebrations, and gratitudes. Next thing I reflect on my birthday and I make a list of is that I acknowledge and honor what's been difficult and challenging over the year. I acknowledge and I honor what's been difficult and challenging. And this is another coaching skill. It's a coaching skill that isn't taught in many trainings. Along with celebrations, we teach it, we learn it deeply in sacred depths because it is so important so that we don't bypass what has been hard, what has been challenging, what has been painful, what has been heartbreaking. It's so important for us as practitioners to honor these things with our clients and to teach our clients to honor this inside of themselves and to do it in a way where we're not complaining about the things that have been difficult and challenging, to do it in a way where we don't feel like victims of what's happened or of our circumstances, but instead to acknowledge and honor what's been hard in ways, well, I just use the word that are honoring, right? In ways that are empowering, and in ways that we're really honoring ourselves and what we've been through. So again, I haven't made my list for this year, but I know that there are going to be quite a number of things on the acknowledge and honor what's been difficult and challenging for this year. It has been a particularly tough year for me personally. If you've been listening to the podcast or part of the community, you know my mother passed away this year. You might know that my younger daughter we got her tested for ADHD. She was diagnosed. We had kind of a tough school year. Um, I've had a whole website debacle. Actually, the day that I am recording this podcast, hopefully it's all going to be fixed. We're switching over to a new website, but it's been a rough couple months with that. Anyway, very important to acknowledge and honor what's been difficult. And then from there, the next reflection on my birthday that I journal on is, what is it that I want to release? What is it that I have been carrying over the last year or years or decades that I am finally ready to release, that I know I don't want to bring it with me into the next cycle, into the next year. And this is one thing that I recommend if you do this or you direct your clients to do this, to do these reflections. This is the one thing that's not a long list because it's a big deal to release something. It takes effort. It takes some energy, it takes intention. And if there's 10 things on this list or more, there's even more than 5 things on this list, it's not going to happen, right? So I usually identify one, maybe two, and in rare years, 3 things that I am going to consciously let go of, release, and not take with me into my next year. So, as an example, I'm not sure what I'm going to choose this year yet, but as an example, I might choose to release all of the frustration that I've had about this website debacle. I don't want to bring that with me into my next year. Or I might choose to release, and I've kind of actually already done this, so I guess this can go on my celebrations list because it's a done deal. But just as an example, to release any beliefs that my younger daughter would be at a disadvantage in life because of that ADHD diagnosis, right? Because at first I had a lot of fear around that. So anyway, I'll note what it is that I want to release. And sometimes, not always, but some years, I'll also include in my reflections lessons from the year. What are all the lessons I've learned from my achievements, from my mess ups, from the good, from the bad, from what I've observed? What are the lessons? Lessons are a big deal. I feel like we don't take the time enough to identify lessons from a year, from a situation, et cetera, et cetera. We are working in my business as a team to more consistently at the end of each launch, as we do assessments of the launch, what worked, what didn't work, celebrations, et cetera, to also say, well, what are the lessons that we learned here? A lot of really good information can come out of that. And then finally, the last thing I reflect on when I'm at the coffee shop on my birthday is I take all of this assessment of the last year and then look to, well, what is it that I want to create in this coming year? What is it that I want to have happen in this coming year? What is it that I want to transpire in this coming year? Both on the outer levels, so outer things that I want to have happen, as well as inner. Like, what is the inner development that I want to have happen? And I love this part of the reflection. I get to vision and really look into and get excited for the next year, create for the next year. And it's all based on the celebrations, the lessons, everything that's transpired the year before. I'll include things on this what I want to create list, like vacations that I want to take, fun things that I want to have happen. Like I love to go to concerts and musicals, stuff like that. I'll include stuff from my home. I'll include what I want to have happen in my spiritual life or with my health and my well-being, what I want to have happen with work, in my relationships, etc. So, those are the reflections and journaling that I do as part one of my birthday ritual. Again, I start with celebrations and gratitudes. I move on to acknowledging and honoring what's been difficult and challenging, heartbreaking. From there, I move on to what is it from this last year that I'd like to release. And then I'll list out my all my lessons from the year. And then from there, I go into visioning. I highly recommend if you're going to do this or share this with your clients that you spend time on each, that this not be, oh, let me do this in 10 minutes, but that you make yourself a cup of tea or get yourself an iced coffee and really take a good 45 minutes to an hour to move through each of these pieces. Give it attention, give it love. It'll go deeper and be more meaningful and be more likely to be metabolized and embodied if you take your time with it. From there, I move on to the second part of my yearly birthday ritual, and this I do at home. I go home, I get cozy in my usual, uh, what do I want to call it? Kind of like, well, I don't really meditate. It's not a meditation place, but I've got this place in my bedroom where I sit on the floor right by my bed, and it's my ritual place. It's my place where I do a lot of my inner work. So I get settled there. And I've got all my notes from my reflections with me. And the first thing that I do then is I pull tarot cards. I've been working with tarot cards for a long time, not in the way that most people do, by the way, not in a fortune telling way. I use cards, whether they're tarot cards or other cards, in a very, very specific kind of psychological way that's based on Jungian imagery work. And I teach all about it in one of the intensives in my program, Advanced Depth. It's such an incredible tool that you can use for yourself and for clients when you start to use imagery in different ways, in Jungian ways, in archetypal ways. But anyway, on my birthday, I have a very specific spread that I pull that helps me go deeper with all of those journaling questions that I reflected on. And I do it and I do the specific work with each card. I make notes. And then from there, I move into what we would more traditionally think of ritual or ceremony. And it's a three-part ritual that I do. And before I share the ritual, um, for those of you that don't normally do ritual or ceremony, I've got a lot to share on it. We don't have the time here. I teach a lot about it in a module in Sacred Depths. And we do it 4 days in person, a training on ritual and group facilitation in a program that I lead called Into the Depths. I don't lead it every year, but I do happen to be offering it this December. But what I want to share now, just as I go into this more ceremony part of my birthday, is that Ritual is an incredible way to make the intangible tangible. For example, in ritual, we take something intangible like a fear or a belief, and then we make something tangible out of it and do something. And that signals to the psyche that we are ready to change. We take visions that we have for the future, right? Visions are intangible, they're just rolling around inside of us, but ritual allows us to create a symbol of the vision, for example, to make something tangible, right? And that signals something to our psyche. It makes us more ready for it. It makes us more prone to create it. So ritual can be very powerful. That's just one reason why. So I've got this three-part ceremony that I do to top off all of the reflections and the tarot and all of that. The first part is focused on that list of celebrations that I made. And I will take some fragrant oil that I like, and I'll anoint myself with each celebration. So I'll go piece by piece by piece, each thing I want to celebrate, and I'll anoint different parts of my body as a way of symbolizing, really taking in, really embodying the celebration. I will often also do this with the hardships that I've listed out, those challenging things that I want to acknowledge. And the idea is that I'm celebrating that I've endured each of those things, that I'm still here, that I'm still thriving after having experienced those things, right? So I use the oils to go even deeper with the celebrations, with the acknowledgments, and really take them in, really own them. From there, I look at the thing that I am ready to release that I identified in my reflections, and I write it down on a piece of paper. And I take time to honor this thing that I want to release for all the ways that it served me up until now. And then I symbolically release it by burning the paper. And then finally, I move on to all of what I've reflected in terms of my vision for the next year and what I want to create. And what I do with that is I usually get a very big, kind of like pillar candle. When I say big, I mean, I guess long, high pillar candle. And I carve a word or a symbol for each part of my vision into the candle as a way of symbolically showing that I am setting the intention for it. And then I anoint the candle with oil and I light the candle uh, pretty much as I can over the coming weeks as a way of continuing to come back to and reignite that vision for myself. Okay, so that's the birthday ritual. I am going to kind of transition now and share some of those reflections and observations on turning 50. And I'm going to keep this short, or else it would be at least a 3-hour episode. I'm going to share just a few of the things that I've been observing in case you're of a similar age or you have clients of a similar age and it's helpful for you. And I'll also say, None of what I'm going to share in terms of these reflections on turning 50, none of it is uber revolutionary. Probably all of it you've heard in one way or another before. And I thought a bit on whether it's even worth it to share it here, since it's not anything new. Because I never just want to talk, even though I love to talk. I always only want to share things if they're of value. And I ultimately decided that it was very worthwhile to share these reflections because we often need to hear things many times over and oftentimes in different ways in order to more deeply integrate them. All right, so here we go. This is reflection number one on turning 50. I see that I'm slowly learning to be okay with being a woman in perimenopause who is moving into menopause, and that I'm also slowly learning to be okay with getting older and aging. So I'm going to be honest. For as feminist as I am and have always been, and for as much as I cognitively understand and have always understood that it's okay to get old and look older and that we can age gracefully and beautifully, I've also always been terrified of becoming older, especially as a woman. I have been terrified of moving into perimenopause and menopause and not being fertile anymore and what that means about me. I have been terrified about starting to look older. And, while I don't think I'm particularly vain, I actually only look in the mirror really only once or twice a week. I have been scared of looking older. I generally think that aging looks great on other women. There's so much beauty in it, but somehow for me, it's been a different story. And I'm just a little ashamed to admit all of this to you, but it's just the truth. And I'm sharing it because I want to normalize it for you in case you feel some of the same ways too. Because for those of us that are evolved, it can almost feel like there's something wrong with us, like we haven't done enough of our inner work properly if we've got some issues with getting older. And I don't think that's true at all, but I definitely kind of had that shame for a while. Anyway, I've looked at my fear of getting older and of aging a lot, and I have worked on this a lot over the last years. And I know that a big part of this fear obviously comes from culture. Culture is not very kind to women as they age and mature. And even when we know better, it's just so ingrained, right? It's because we see it everywhere in media, in the movies, all of it. And I really believe strongly that we need to actively re-message all of this for ourselves. We need to remessage what culture, what patriarchy, what capitalism has taught us about getting older and what it means to mature in general, and then particularly for women, what it means to mature. But aside from culture, another big, big part of my fear of getting older comes from very personal experience. It comes from my mother getting sick when I was so young and getting old before her time. She was 9 when she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and she became handicapped slowly, and then very quickly things fell apart when she was in her 40s. And when she was in her 50s, she stopped walking altogether. By her 60s, she wasn't only in a wheelchair, but she could barely use her hands. And my mother also looked old before her time. It was from her illness. It was from all of the medications she was taking, and it was from the everyday struggle and hardship and trauma of what she was going through. Starting from when I was in my late 20s, I didn't get to receive from my mother some of the things that I desperately wanted from her, things that I witnessed other women my age, a lot of women my age, getting to have with their mothers. I didn't get to have that youthful, active mother. I didn't get to have girls' lunches with her out together. It was very hard to get her out to a restaurant. I didn't get to have manicures with her or weekend trips. My mother, because she aged before her time, wasn't able to come with me to buy my wedding dress. She was never able to come visit me in North Carolina or to see my kids in musicals or to go to their birthdays or graduations. We traveled to New Jersey once a month, every 6 weeks, because I was so devoted and I wanted to see her, but she wasn't able to participate in any of these other things. And of course, all of this really impacted me in many, many ways. And all of this, and seeing my mother in this way, and seeing, having this be my primary model for a woman getting older, it caused me to have a lot of fear about getting older. But what I've noticed as I've been reflecting this summer in preparation for my 50th birthday is that a good chunk of all of that fear has subsided over the last year or two. So I'm definitely in perimenopause, and I have been for the last 2 or 3 years. My cycles are getting shorter. I have definitive moods, we'll call them moods sometimes. And usually I can tell when a mood is coming on, and I just ask poor John, my hubby, to leave the room or else he doesn't know it hit him. And also, as an aside, I'll tell you, don't get me started on what it's like to live in a household where one woman is going through perimenopause and two girls, a teen and a preteen, are just starting to get their periods. The hormones in our household are flying everywhere. Anyway, I think that facing the thing that I've been scared of for so long, right? Perimenopause, leading into menopause. I think that facing it, experiencing it, it has helped me to slowly become okay with it. Now that I'm in it and I see what it's like, I'm no longer so scared about the fact that I'm not a younger woman. And I can see now that I'm in it, now that I'm going through it, that it doesn't have to be like my mother, that there is indeed life and good life, even when you move past your fertile years. Now that I'm in it, now that I'm aging, I'm okay that I have some wrinkles and sags. Well, okay, let me correct that. I'm mostly okay with it. I still absolutely sometimes get that ping of, oof, I don't look like I used to. And also just the knowing that sometimes when I look tired, it's not because I'm tired at all. It's just how I look now. But anyway, I'm becoming more and more okay with that. I'm even almost okay with people at the supermarket calling me ma'am instead of miss, which that's a big thing here in the South. It really got my goat for a long time. So part of the fear that is subsiding, part of the reason why the fear is subsiding is all of the work, the healing that I've done over this last decade around how I'm separate from my mother. I've done that deep inner work to get to really feel and know on a deep level that I'm separate from her, that I am individuated, that my body isn't her body, that I'm from her. And we do have some similarities, but I'm also very, very different. My body is different. And my self-care habits are radically different. And you'd think maybe all of this would be obvious. You might be thinking to yourself, Joanna, didn't you already know that you're separate from her? Well, when you have a mother that was such a force, like my mother was, and who was also sick for much of her life with a touch of narcissism, it does take more work on the daughter's part to be able to individuate, to be able to be separate. And while still loving, right? While still being in deep relationship with her and appreciating her. And I can feel a lot of that work paying off now as I become more and more comfortable with myself at this age. And I'll also just say part of the this fear of aging that has subsided for me is I think that also when you get to be 50, you've also come face to face with your mortality. You realize that you're not going to be around forever. And at least for me, there's something about recognizing the preciousness of time that is allowing me to be grateful for each age that I get to experience and everything that comes along with it, right? Including the sags and the gray hair and the menopause and all of that. Anyway, this leads me to my next reflection or observation about turning 50. And this is another one I feel really good to be able to share. I feel kind of proud of myself on this. I've become so much better over the last few years at enjoying life and taking pleasure in it. So you may know this about me. I spent so much of my late 20s, my 30s, and a good part of my 40s being interested and prioritizing achievement and productivity and getting validated and proving to the world and to myself that I'm amazing. And I'm not making any of that wrong. I think it got me really far and it was meaningful to me to do all that and to be that way. And also, of course, it would be a lie to say that I don't anymore have the drive to achieve. I definitely still have the drive to achieve. I'm a type A person who has a big mission in this world. And there's still a lot that I hope to do and create and achieve. But that being said, what I notice about myself as I move towards 50 is that my professional goals and success, they don't define me as much as they used to. It's not that I'm not interested in them. I am. They're important to me, but they just don't define me in the same ways or as much as they used to. And these days, Instead, I'm much more interested in and I've prioritized pleasure and presence. So instead of achieving more, what's more important to me is to use my time to really take in what is good, to really enjoy, to really be present to the goodness and allow myself to take pleasure in what is. I am someone who, for most of my life, and many of us are, I'm not alone in this, is prone to see what's wrong, prone to focus on the struggle. And in doing that, I've missed out all that time. I missed out on taking in pleasure, on enjoying life, enjoying all that there is. As a part of that, these days, I'm also more interested in slowing down how I experience time and really being there for it, in it, present to it, as opposed to being in my head so much. When I'm in my head, I lose time. And, like I said earlier, as I get older, I'm realizing how precious time is. I don't want to lose it. I don't want to lose it being in my head. I don't want to lose it from overworking, from worrying, from complaining, from being on the struggle bus so much. So, no perfection here. A lot of those things are still there, but I have made a very intentional, I've set the intention over these years to be more present and to prioritize in being in joy, enjoying, and taking pleasure. And I intend for sure, as I move into my 50s, to make that even more of a priority. And of course, while I still am contributing as much as I can to the world so that others can have things to enjoy and take pleasure in as well. And I guess that's a little bit related. I'll share one more observation for now. Something that I'm experiencing as I head towards 50, and it's on the topic of legacy. So, legacy is a word that I really never resonated with until the last year or two. So, yes, of course, I've always wanted to make a difference in the world. I've always wanted to make a positive impact. I've always wanted to serve. I've always wanted to leave this world for the better because of something that I've contributed. But that being said, I never really thought about what lasting impact well beyond the span of my life I could make. I never really thought about what is the mark that is uniquely mine that could continue to grow or be passed down or evolve long after I'm gone. I didn't think that was for me. I don't know why, but I didn't. But now that I'm at 50, and again, now that there's that mortality thing, legacy is starting to resonate for me. I see it as a way of living on even after you pass. And there's something about that that brings a lot of comfort to me. And by the way, as I'm talking about legacy right now, it's not coming from an ego place of, oh, I'm so great or brilliant that I'm going to leave a legacy. It's not that. It's about really knowing that we're all meant to leave the world a better place than how we found it, and for that impact to live on. And I know for sure part of my legacy are my children and Wow, even as I say that, it's kind of bringing some tears to my eyes. Part of my legacy is my children, and they are, of course, their own people. They get to individuate, but knowing that I've done my best, will continue to do my best to instill certain values into them and life lessons so that they can pass that on to the world, to the community, to the world at large. I know that the local community work that I do is part of my legacy. The ways that I support, for example, my kids' schools. And then, of course, there is my work, my business, and what I've created and what I am creating out in the world through my work. That is my legacy. So I've been meditating a lot lately on what is legacy? What is this? And what is it that I'd like for my legacy to be? And while I've been meditating on it, I've also come to understand, to recognize that sometimes we can't fully direct what our legacy is going to be. It's what others are going to make of what we create, do, contribute, and leave behind. So I'm still in process with this one for sure, but it's really lighting me up to think about it. And I can see already in small ways it's inspiring certain projects that I want to work on. It's informing decisions that I'm making. So I'll definitely share more on this as it evolves for me. Okay. I think I'm going to end this episode here because, or else I could keep talking all day long. I really, really hope that if you've made it to the end of this episode, that you've enjoyed it, that you've received inspiration for yourself, that it has moved you in all of the ways that it's meant to move you. I'd love to hear what resonated for you. I'd also love to hear what your birthday rituals are, ways that you're using rituals with your clients. I'd love to hear your reflections on turning 50 if you have been, along with me, lucky enough to reach that age. Oh, and remember my invitation from earlier in the episode to join us for the Art of Client Transformation. If it's been calling to you, I would love to see you there. It is pay what you wish right now. It's just such a great deal. We go so deep, we do so much there. And as always, it would mean the world to me if you were to share this podcast with anyone and everyone who you think might get value from it. Your spreading the word is my best way of getting this work into the hands of those who need it and will use it to make the world a better place.